Hello everyone, it's your boy Leeroy here, and I'm coming at you with a guide for Destiny levels 1 through 6, so you can know what to expect and know how to squash it. A little bit about myself. I have about 300 hours in this game. I've experimented well with some stuff. I've played all the way since early access, ever since there was only 2 worlds, or was there 1 world? I can't remember. But regardless, I have a lot of hours in this, over 100 in the 1.0 release and the rest in the beta. So what I kind of want to do here is just talk about Destiny levels 1 through 6 and then what you should do to prepare for those and learn. So starting off at Destiny level 1, you are giving enemies new improved attack patterns, and that's all enemies from worlds 1 through 4, and they're going to catch you off guard. You're going to get hit, and especially if you're not expecting them, it's going to be a little bit of loop, as well as every time you add to this Destiny level here, you get a modifier of damage percent on the enemies. Here, let me actually move myself so you guys can see this. You guys, there you go. Let me go up here. Yeah, you get a damage percent here, right? As well as the max life, and you also get the same thing for Zodiacs, except they get more bonuses, and that goes for any increase that they would get from these Destiny levels as well. You are also given this Zodiac wheel. And every time you beat a Zodiac on a given level, you get a Destiny fragment to use in the Void Catalist, which I will talk about later, as well as what you should expand on early. So what I recommend is slowly go through the Destiny levels. I did them where I cleared out the Destiny level before I went through. You don't have to do that anymore. What you could do is you could absolutely just breach the levels, especially if you think it's easy. But if you're having like a hard time expanding to the next Destiny level, I highly recommend staying on that one, or at least trying to get more Destiny fragments to make it easier and easier, especially in the early game portion. The early game tends to be where a lot of people have that trouble with, of like putting a cohesive build together and then getting out of that quickly, so you can learn the worlds 3, 4, and the Fucus fight as well, right? So all in all, again, level 1, you're gonna get some Zodiac or some enemy patterns that you're not really expecting, and to help with this, I really recommend you do not stray away from stuff like armor when picking up Andromeda Barge ranks, as a whole. That way you could get hit and be like, okay, that didn't do a huge portion of my health, and still be okay. Now again, if you are not quite sure how to put together a cohesive build or what your priority should be, as far as like in the run, I will post a guide that I have below that talks about my thought process in a run and what you could or should prioritize, as well as comments that, you know, have come from that as well. Now going up from Destiny level 1, right, you are allowed all of these Destiny fragments. You get 12 from the Zodiacs, right, and you get 3 from the Fucus, so you get 15 per Destiny level. And I really highly recommend you use those as you get closer to Destiny level 6, because that is the biggest form of power spike that you will have for a long time. So getting to Destiny level 2 increases the stars to minimum difficulty of exploration rooms and fight rooms. The stars are how this game's like difficulty meter, right? So it makes the rooms spawn harder enemies in forms of elites, as well as more enemies in general. So now you're going to get more enemies with these attack patterns that overlap in fight rooms and exploration rooms, and then it's going to be a little bit harder, but you get 2 more stars for each room that you do, which you will use for Andromeda Barge ranks that give you higher stats. So this one, it will make the rooms a little bit harder, but you will actually find you get easier as you go into the run. So you get out of that early game portion, right, and then straight in. It's pretty good. And then this one, which will be shadow clones of heroes, can appear in exploration rooms. These are a huge learning curve, and especially if they spawn early, I recommend you run. Dealing with them later is a lot easier because you have a lot more damage. These clones can heal, so if you don't burst them straight out right, they will heal, and then they will continue to do more and more damage to you. So either really respect them when you see shadow clones are approaching or are coming, whatever it says, and then deal with them appropriately, or run early. Just run past them. It's fine. You can run all the way to the gate. Now they will follow you, so you will have to skip whatever reward thing is there, but it's better than dying and then you can run early, right? So all in all, you could also, again, I wouldn't recommend like armor is something that I recommend for new pattern stuff and learning Zodiacs, especially if you're early in the game as a whole. Because armor, it caps out at 70%. In a average run, you're not going to cap that like at all unless you're just like really going for it, which even then you need auras for anyway. So honestly, the more armor you have, the better it is as well, considering it's a percentage mitigation. So if you are having trouble, especially in these boss fights, learning the patterns and getting them down, I highly suggest you get armor instead of damage, because the damage you will do anyway, especially as you get used to things like synergy, which will be in the guide below as well. All of it kind of ties together. Now, the next bit is a huge jump in terms of like, I'm taking 20% more damage from everything, including bosses, and everything is taking 20% more damage from me. Like things can take 20% more damage from me because I have 20% more health. This is a pretty like good uptick in power and will probably stonewall you on the bosses that you're not comfortable with. So as you start clearing out the Desi levels, right, these portraits will get gray, and the ones that aren't grayed out are the ones that are guaranteed to appear because you have Desi fragments for them. If they're all gray, it's random. You just completely random. You could run to the same ones, whatever. And if they're lit up and you fail them, you can run to them again in the next run. So honestly, I would say here is the point where if you haven't grinded for some Desi fragments, you might want to, because you might just have to, because you'll lose some runs. Now, going from that to this, enemy elite spawn chance. When you kill elite enemies in this game, they drop you stars and extra EXP and quartz anyway. So more elite chance is not a bad thing at all. You like, that is the same thing as kind of the star rooms, where you go, okay, I'll kill them, and then I'll do the rooms, and then I'll get more stars, and then I can buy more drinks and draw in a bar. It's honestly fine. And this one you probably will just skip past and be like, okay, that was easy. I don't get the point of this. And then you get to Desi level 6. This is a wall for a lot of newer players, not only because if you beat it, you unlock the rest of the game. You unlock the hardest bit of the game, which is a Fucus. Now, if you haven't seen Desi level 6 yet, I recommend you probably click off this video, because I'm going to talk about it. And it's a little bit spoilery, so if you don't want to get spoiled, I recommend click it off. But if you don't care, stick around. So these Zodiacs will have improved and new attack patterns, and a Fucus will have a second phase, completely resetting his health. You cannot brute force this. You have to learn the patterns, because you don't have enough resources to brute force this yet. So I really recommend do not stray away from armor. Honestly, like, again, I have a priority system in terms of like stat increases that you should have. Always make sure you have keys when you go into exploration runes. Make sure you're getting the 5 key value right. Make sure you're paying attention to the echoes you have, stuff like that, right? But again, if you're new to the game at this point at Desi level 6, you have a pretty good grasp of how to kind of make a build that's semi-strong, as well as you can cohesively put more parts of the game together in order to make yourself stronger. You are just going to need time to learn and adjust to these new Zodiac patterns, unless you are really clicking with the game systems and then learn, oh, everything stacks upon itself in this game, so you can have a lot more damage and you can brute force. But if you don't get that point, I recommend kind of thinking about your builds going through the run, right? Thinking about what you want, as well as making sure that you have enough armor to survive these Zodiac attacks, because they will hit you. You will get hit unless you are very experienced, which at this point you won't be. You will get hit. Get armor. That is my 100% just foolproof guide. Get armor. The attacks will hurt less. You can see them more often, and you can see more of them and have a closer boss fight chance. Now, am I saying get exclusively armor? I'm saying get armor when it shows up, in terms of like, you know, don't take it over health, like, or take armor over health. take armor over mana. Even like you could even take it over attack speed early. The more attack speed you have, the more mana you have, so the more DPS that you'll have as well. And attack speed is just really good for quality of life anyway. But strength affects every single form of damage that you can do. It affects your spells, your gambits, your auras, your signature spells. Every single tick of damage gets applied with your strength modifier. Don't skip that. And don't skip armor, because armor can and will save your life. Health is good, but it's really not that good, because it gives you more effective health the more armor you have, but it's not something I would prioritize over anything else, to be honest. Honestly, you probably just skip health and be like, whatever. Right now, I do have a lot of runs of me going through Destiny level 6, especially here recently, but it's with Destiny fragments, and Destiny fragments are how you can really break through this early game. And then as soon as you get past this Destiny level 6 point, you can make it easier and easier and easier and easier just by grinding these Destiny fragments, right? Which you don't even have to grind that much anymore, because as soon as you get to a certain level of what you're at, like these portraits will start having multiple Destiny fragments on them. And if they have 3 Destiny fragments on their portrait, that means when you kill them, you're going to get 3. And that happens for everyone, including Afucus, which means you could get even more from him, right? Three levels worth even. So take advantage of that if you want to speed through that after Destiny level 6. But again, for Destiny level 1 through 6, don't negate armor. Get down your build like philosophy. Get down what synergy is. And by synergy, I'm talking about things that have the same effects. So if we go to the glossary here, if you start with an aura that gives you burn, keep going burn. Collect burn stuff. Collect burn spells. Collect burn other auras. Collect burn on your auto attack, on your signature spell, stuff like that. Right. All of that will help. Get more of the same thing and it will help you. You don't need like all of this rounded stuff. Normally, if you just prioritize one thing or 2 things in your build, you'll be very strong. So much so that you can brute force past bosses that you may not understand. Now, as far as what I recommend in the Void Catalyst, these are sectioned off initially. You will not have access to all of this. It goes in tiers. So you need to spend 10 Destiny fragments or to unlock this, and then 20 for this one, I think. Now, right off the bat, I'm going to recommend you max out this one. The Andromeda Bar free drink. That is fantastic. Great. A lot of people want to go with this healing shard drop rate. I don't like that one, and I'll tell you why very soon. Really early, like if you only have this first tier, I still don't think it's worth getting, because you could get stuff like increased damage on full life and end up one-hitting the smaller enemies and earlier enemies and getting out of those really quickly, as well as getting the strength tier per level, which means every time your hero levels up, right, and you get one of those like little upgrades that you could do for your signature spell or auto attack, it's called prowess, then in that case you can get more and more and more and more strength. It's really good. Life stones are fine, but also this restores 25% mana per tier when entering a new room. I'll only put 2 points into this, because between Andromeda's bar and the boss room itself, it will give you 100% mana without capping, and you will not need it for anything else. You will have mana going into other rooms. That is great. So your like starter series here of like just like 10 Destiny fragments, right? You have 5, 8, like 12 here, right? So it's a little bit spread out, but honestly, getting this is really good, and then getting 1 point Andromeda bar, and then you get this next tier. If you're having trouble with survivability, I highly recommend you get restore life per tier when entering a new room. This is way better than healing shard value. This is way better than healing shard value because it goes off of your percentage health, which is really good if you get life stones as well. So I'm gonna really recommend that you get a couple points into that. It's gonna be a little expensive, and then like even now, like I don't have mine maxed out. I normally stay around like 2 or 3 for a long time, and then you'll want to get Andromeda bar like this really good, because you get a free drink, or if you have it maxed out, you get 2 free drinks each Andromeda bar. There are 4 worlds plus the bar before Afucus, right? Which means, oh, oops, I went to the other page. Which means that you could get a total of 10 free drinks. That is 10 free stat upgrades that you wouldn't have otherwise. Pretty free. Like, and by free I mean it doesn't cost you stars. It will say free when you go buy them. It's nice. Now, after you start getting this, and you don't have to spend 20 shards in this tier, it's just 20 shards overall. I would highly recommend that you go for I would highly recommend you go for gain random stones in void chests if you like taking the void rooms, right? Or take this random echo. These are expensive. You get 10 and then 20 early game. That's really expensive. However, at least 1 point into it does a lot, because then you could have earlier and earlier power spikes, and some echoes are really game changing, like the one that gives you Pava Feather +1. So instead of if you pick up a level 1 feather, it's a +2, or it's a +2 feather, level 2 feather. Now other ones like, you know, Ordon Fury that just takes 20% off bosses, also really good. There are some that like you may look at and you go, I don't know, but that could influence your choice when you're looking for ores and stuff. And speaking of ores, if you don't want to go for that early, that's fine as well. You could do Ore Refiner, which is what I ended up doing instead, which is it lets you upgrade your auras in Andromeda's bar, right? Because you get 1 per, and you could have 2, so you could do it at every single bar or in every single world, and it lets you upgrade your auras that you find a mythic, or it tiers them up. So if it's a common, it'll go to heroic, right, which is the blue one, and then from blue to yellow, which is the mythic. It's the final level for all of them, except if you find Astral with their own level. Now, that is really important to just have build cohesion and synergy as a whole. And I honestly, I would do this one first before you start doing Spirit Friends, if it like at that point. And then at that point, you probably have like a better gauge of kind of what you'd like to do. I would highly recommend like going like for more strength stuff. Armor stones are really good, especially like starting out. And if you're like me and you're like, I just get by a lot of stuff early, it's fine. Get some armor stones, it's fine. Armor goes a long way. But also in terms of damage, if you're having trouble doing damage, especially to bosses, get some crit stones. Okay, you don't need that many, just a little bit, and then start prioritizing crit in your runs, and then also getting this crit hit damage, because this damage is a additional multiplier that happens after your strength and every other bonus. So this crit damage is huge, a lot bigger than it may seem, and that's why it's at the bottom. And you might be like, oh, that's crit down. I don't really crit that much. Crit happens more than you think, and you can get target to make it even more impactful. So outside of that, you know, like you can pick up some quality of life of like here or there, whatever you'd like. But I'm not going to go too in depth, because then you're like trying to like, you know, min max as you're trying to grind or whatever. But this is like a pretty all right board. And again, like the ones I really recommend are Andromeda's bar, the Ore Refiner, and then later if you're having trouble with damage, I honestly recommend getting your crit damage up. And then if you're having trouble early game, you can get some increased damage on full life, because it goes all the way to 300%. It's pretty insane. And then yeah, if you're having trouble surviving, like get some of this, and then after you get 2 or 3 points into this, then you could go get some healing shards if you're still having trouble surviving, right? Stuff like that. That is perfectly fine as well. And the rest of this is just like quality of life, or like you know, Zodiac charge speed, which is also very good. I would recommend that for like damage too, especially after you get the crit damage one. Go ahead, pump some points into that, because you get multiple summons per boss if your damage is kind of lacking, which is nice. Now, I think I've went through everything as far as what you could expect in a run. I recommend focusing on what synergy is. If you don't know, again, I'll put it in the in a comment below, or the description at least, for my guide that I had like a bit ago whenever 1.0 came out, and I gave a more in-depth look of what I think about during a run. And I also, in all of my videos, I'll talk about what my thought process is for a run most of the time. So you can also look at those if you don't want to look at the guide. And then all of these are like the first big wall is going to be at 4, when you get 20% more damage and health on stuff, and you start like getting chunked for pieces of your health. That's when armor really starts to come in. And then the Armor also helps for learning Zodiac. So please do not disrespect armor when learning the game. It's cool to do damage and go fast and be whatever, but if that makes you lose a run, whose fault is that, right? So if you're learning, armor is your friend, as well as getting your build synergy down and learning the different, like, you know, kind of combos in the game to see, right? And learning how to dodge efficiently, right? Which is another way you can kind of get away from armor and get more in attack speed. That way your dodge is reset more often, because every time you attack, you of course get the dodge reset as well. And yeah, also the Void Catalist, right? Early, I highly recommend dropping a bar, getting some extra strength. This mana is so good for just opening up on a boss and taking out a large chunk of their health. So good. And then when you start taking that damage more and more and more, this helps a lot too. Adventurer's Gift is crazy good. I highly recommend it over these. You can do it in tandem, right? Like, again, I would say 2 or 3 points into this, and then after that, these start being more worth. But at that point, you probably have the Aura Finer and the crit damage as well. That goes a long way, as well as armor stones if you're having trouble in the early game as well. If I didn't cover something, let me know in the comments below, and I will do my best to elaborate on it. Hopefully this gives you a good picture of what to do and what to expect going through, like, your first, you know, 6 Desi levels and getting your first, you know, bit of fragments in the game. I know you only get what is it, like 90 from these first 6 levels, I think. And I use about 100 here, I think. Yeah, like 130. But like, you wouldn't max this out, like, obviously. So I would say more around this point is what you would expect to kind of have, is what I'd recommend. And then if you're gonna cut stuff back, I'd cut stuff like that out, right? If you wanted like a little bit less, a little bit more accurate depiction, because you would get crit in the run anyway if you're getting this. So yeah, again, if I didn't cover something, just let me know in the comments below. Hopefully this guide helps you in some way, and I will be doing a more in-depth guide of like what I recommend for after Dex level 6 and what levels I think you should go for, because there's a lot in there that it isn't actually detrimental in terms of stuff like the elite spawn chance that we talked about, right? Because after Dex level 6 you do have some more chances for that, which means if you have more elites, yeah, they're going to be tankier and then, you know, do more stuff, but you have a pretty good idea of what they do, how to avoid them, and how to kill them, which means free loot, right? As well as some others that aren't that bad, kind of like these lose random 3 stone drink buffs, and you're like, oh, 3 random stone, like that's pretty good. Yeah, but if you also, you know, come back to this and you start getting void chest stones, that kind of just pays for itself. There's a lot of counteracting that you can do in terms of that, but I'll go over that in a different video. Until next time, guys, if you guys enjoyed, please like, comment, subscribe with the good stuff. Thanks for watching. Peace.